Protest line, freedom scribbled on your sign. Headline, New York Times, standing on the edge.
Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 90, and this is take number 2. Happy holidays, and thanks for listening. I just recorded this podcast a few days ago, and went to open it up, and half of it was missing, and I have no idea what happened, but that's welcome to the world of podcasting. These things just happen, and sometimes I wonder if it's my Audacity software that I use, because it's a free software that you can use to record podcasts, and it works well about 95% of the time, and then the rest of the time you just get really bizarre things like this, where half of the podcast was there. So it was the second half that is there, so I'm going to leave that. So the sound may be a little bit different as you get to the second half of this podcast after I play a clip. So just to warn you. But again, thanks for listening, and I hope you are having a great holiday season as we march towards the new year of 2016. So before I get going, I wanted to mention that if you are looking to move into the new age of marketing on social media, you can get a 14-day free trial with 22 Social with this link. It's j.mp/freedomlovin'. That's j.m as in Mary, P as in Paul, /freedomlovin'. And if you are wanting to do that free trial with that link, I can also give you a free consultation. So just let me know, and we can talk about what you're up to and how we can work with the 22 Social app. I've talked about it before in previous podcasts, so it's just something that can help you run your business on Facebook. And definitely we can get into that more later. But just a couple other things. I got an iPhone, and I've been an solid Android guy since smartphones came out. I had the first Google phone, and I recently bought an iPhone, and just want to try it out, not abandoning Android altogether. And I will have a report on that, because I know that people love to, talking about your cell phone is like politics and religion. Like it's super sensitive, and everybody defends their position. But so far, I like it. I just I've only had a few days of experience with it, so. There's a few things that I've liked better so far, and a few things that I have seen that are not as good as the Android. But I will have more on this soon, either in a blog post or a podcast. So today I'm going to talk about this idea of a growth versus a fixed mindset. And I've been reading this book it's just called Mindset, and I've actually been reading it for a few months now, but it's a really good book. I've just been reading a few pages every day. And it talks about the idea of being in a growth mindset is, kind of thinking about things as you can get to what you want. Natural talent is highly, highly overrated. There's really not as much of natural talent as there is a lot of people that work really hard at something. Coming up with new ideas and new projects and being creative. It comes out of that growth mindset. So if you have a fixed mindset, it's, you possibly are thinking things like, things have always been this way and things will always be this way. And that's where progress is just stagnated. And so I really am a proponent of having a growth mindset. And in the book, they talk about a couple of examples. They talk about athletes. That's one of them, and how they've been able to overcome the idea that things are fixed. And they give all kinds of examples of this, different professional athletes and various famous people. And then they get into the idea of raising children. And that's where they talk about, instilling a fixed mindset or instilling a growth mindset in the kids that you're raising. And that is something that is just so important at a young age to, give your kids the idea that you can grow, and you don't have to be like, you're not good at art right now. It doesn't mean you can never be good at art. You're not a naturally talented athlete at something, that doesn't mean forever you could never do any sports. There's all kinds of examples of that, and you can get into, if you're calling your kid bad, you're a bad boy or something. That's a fixed thing, because then the kid starts going with that as their mental image of themselves, or the idea that you can't. No, I'm a bad boy, so I'm going to act like a bad boy. So there's so much that goes into this, and it's such a great book to read, because it does change your mindset just kind of reading this stuff. And so I have a clip from the Duncan Trussell podcast, Duncan Trussell Family Hour, and he's chatting with another comedian, Ari Shafir, they're talking about how to get rid of the TSA. So I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to have comments on the other side of this.
Bring that idea, man, if you bring that sense of optimism into your own life and imagine that there is the potentiality at any given moment in your existence for some new bit of information or new epiphany to emerge into your mind that completely and radically transforms your approach to your existence in a way that puts you in a heightened level of happiness than you ever had in your life, then maybe it'll come. It's better than going around and thinking things have always been this way, things are always going to be this way, because that line of thinking, not that you think like that, but some depressed people do, that line of thinking is the old school line of thinking, which is that 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. But we exist in a system of accelerating returns, not just in an outside universe, but in an inside universe
too. 2 + 2 is 2 times 2, which is at once equals the same thing. 2 times 2 and 2 + 2 is the same thing.
Yeah.
But then times 2 again.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing the difference.
Or times 4.
Now it's 8 instead of 6.
2 times 2 is 4 times 4 times 8 times 8 times 64 times 64. Right. Do that math.
Square it, yeah.
And that can happen. And when that fucking crazy expansion happens, and guess what? It already did happen. You know when it happened the first time? The big fucking bang. This nice goddamn super collapse singularity exploded out into time, and we are particles that came from that initial boom. It fucking exploded out, man, and it exploded out fast. The initial expansion of the universe, theoretically, and they don't know, of course, they're just all theoreticals. Who the fuck knows what that was? Yeah. But it may have expanded faster than the speed of light. It was such a massive explosion. In the same way, this thing that we are approaching, it could happen just as quickly. It could be just as explosive, and that means that our intentions, the intention of every living sentient being on this planet, if the intentions are off, then you could actually shape or form this massively accelerating thing. It's like having a chimpanzee on the steering wheel of a fucking Ferrari going 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, so that got me thinking that whole idea of the way things are is the way they'll always be. There's so many people that think like that kind of real fixed mindset that you can't possibly move forward because this is the way things are. And there's so many things that I think of when I hear that statement that it's not true because it's never happened before. And I hear that a lot. And that's just such a fixed mindset that doesn't allow you to see the possibilities. And it kind of leads to a sort of depressed, sort of like boring look at life. And I think it's so important that we kind of overcome that idea that everything is the way it always has been and it's never going to change, because it's not true, completely not true. So I look at it as there's a few different ways that it comes up for me, and that is the idea of what can we accomplish. So first of all, individually, you are likely to do way more than you believe. So it's easy to get bogged down and have the shiny object syndrome where you're like just bouncing from one thing to another. But thinking big will allow things to happen. So you start thinking of what are your bigger goals? How can you strive towards those bigger goals and make them happen in your own life? That's the first thing I think needs to happen. And then the thoughts about yourself. So I just was teaching this course on weight loss, and it's all about your accepting yourself internally. It's all about your internal thoughts. That's how you lose weight. It's the diet itself. You could change your diet a million different ways, and it's really not going to make a difference unless you change your mindset. So the thoughts about yourself, have you always thought the same thing about yourself? That's one thing to question. What if you could disprove the negative stuff? So that came in with weight loss. So if you can get on some sort of roll, like maybe you can create a mini habit, maybe exercise is a thing that you don't do much, and one push-up a day could lead to really big gains in your fitness levels. So starting small and then working towards those big goals is such a huge thing for your individual personal revolution. So with a fixed mindset, a lot of people will stay in their hometown forever. So nothing changes, right? You stay put because you don't want things to change because change is scary and change is difficult and things like that. But then you just get old and die. But you lived a comfortable life, quote unquote, comfortable life. You didn't really experience that much, but got to live that comfortable life. But that actually isn't true because things change all around you all the time. Everybody's getting older. Technology is changing. Everything is changing. So to sit in one place doesn't solve the problem, of wanting to be comfortable, because eventually you are not really that comfortable because you are probably missing out on some things. And I'm reading this book called Humans Need Not Apply. And it's a really interesting book about what's happening right now. It's not necessarily a futuristic book, but about what's happening right now and the changes to society with all the robots and all the AI that's coming online that is changing, is taking jobs away from people. And it's funny because you hear, if you listen to any of the politicians, and you hear the people that support them, you'll hear that idea of like, they're taking our jobs, like the people from Mexico are coming up and they're stealing our jobs. And it's really interesting because those people have no clue what is really going on, because they should be worried about the robots, because the robots are actually stealing jobs. There's up in Oxnard, California, there's they grow strawberries up there. And I was in Oxnard a couple of years ago, and I saw all these immigrants, bending over, picking strawberries. They do it all day long, and it looks like horrible work. But now they've invented a robot that picks strawberries. So what's going to happen with those jobs? You think they're going to still have people working out there and breaking their backs? No, they're going to have a robot. They're going to have a series of robots that pick the strawberries, and they do a better job too. I'm sure they're more efficient. They're faster. So these are the type of things that are happening, and this is something that everyone needs to get ready for. It's really important to roll with the changes, not just the changes in your immediate life, but the changes in society, the changes in technology. That has to happen, or you just kind of wither away and you just get lost and you can't function in society. And life becomes a lot more difficult. So I'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that with my involvement with 22 Social, there was a kind of a funny post that somebody made that said, is this the death of websites? And even though that's a little bit of it's said in jest, I actually think that there is something to that. I mean, I don't think we're going to see websites go away, definitely not in the next year, but we will see a shift here because of what's happening on social media. Social media is changing very quickly. And so if you're not up on those changes, if you don't know how to market your business on social media, you are going to lose out a lot. And it could happen, pretty quickly here, where you will see a lot of businesses popping up that don't have websites. And how do they do it? And that's the thing, is like that, those are the type of things that you absolutely need to learn. And because otherwise you get left behind, just like what happened to cars. I mean, there was a lot of people that their businesses were tied to the horse and buggy. Maybe they sold the buggies, or maybe they bred horses or something. And then the cars came along, and they really needed to just go right into figuring out how they could get into that industry. But some people just said, no, the cars, there was even some quotes out there that said, cars are a passing, a passing fad. And they were saying, their reasoning was that, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting, but where are they going to drive cars? I mean, there's no roads. Like, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. So, and the same thing happened when the internet came along. There were tons of people saying, there's actually a Newsweek article that I just read. It was written in 1994, I think. No, 1995. And it was saying that the internet is a fad and it's never going to take off. I mean, no one's going to want to use their credit cards online. That is crazy. And it's not like brick and mortar stores are going to go away. I mean, it was just pointing out all these things that actually did end up happening. And it was kind of a funny article to read and to see that when people were just sort of like, what is this thing? What is it going to go away? Is it going to be here? What can we use it for? So, and then there's companies that just completely miss the boat on the internet and on online sales. And the one that comes to mind is Blockbuster. I mean, that was a little different situation, but Blockbuster just could not adapt. They could not move with the times where Netflix just came in and took over that industry, and Blockbuster was so late to the game because they didn't see it coming, and then they went out of business. And not just talking about business, but actually in your personal life, these changes can really affect you and how you kind of function. Because right now, everybody's got a cell phone. Most people have a smartphone. So if you're not familiar with smartphones, you sort of are left behind. And maybe that's okay with some people, but it becomes a problem when you start to use one on, a regular basis, and then you don't really understand it. You don't know how things work at all. Like I was in the T-Mobile store today getting my phone, and I was waiting, and there was a guy that walked in, and he was probably, I would say, in his maybe mid 60s, and he had a question. He was talking to the T-Mobile guy, and he was asking him about, he's like, my phone keeps saying that it's out of memory, and I don't know what to do. So the guy said, well, you need to back up your data, and then you can delete whatever you don't want, or you just back it up and then start over. And the guy's like, what do you mean? And he said, well, do you have if you have a laptop, you can just back everything up, plug it into your laptop, back everything up on iTunes, and then you're good to go. And the guy's like, I don't even understand what you're saying. What is the iTunes? And I had to laugh because that's always a funny thing to hear when people start putting the in front of things, like iTunes. What is the iTunes? So anyway, the guy working at T-Mobile spent a really long time with this guy just trying to explain the basics of this stuff, and he was going around and around in circles because the guy kept saying, well, what is that? How do you what does backup mean? And it's like, so I look at that and I think, like, I don't know why does anyone need to let things like that go? Like, I'm sure that guy knows a lot about radios or something else that was some technology that was in his time became really big, but he just knows very little about the things that are right now. And I don't see any point in letting that stuff go and becoming out of date. Like, I remember when email was started to get really popular, I thought it was amazing. I was like, oh my God, you could send a message to someone electronically. That's awesome. And as soon as it was out, I was all over it. And there were people like older than me that it took them like 5 years to get email. Like, it's just hilarious. But I mean, the idea here is to never stop growing. If you never stop growing, you can stay young. And that's the important thing. If you read and listen and question, always question the status quo, things are not always going to be this way. Things will change. Then I believe that we can all have impact. And, this Bitcoin revolution here is just so awesome because right now it's such in the early stages. It's so early on and so many people don't understand it and they never will. And that's fine because nobody understands, most people don't understand how email works. Like if I were to ask you, can you explain to me how email works? Like, is there anything that you could tell me? I don't know. I just type in some things and I hit the send button and then it goes to the person that I'm sending it to. Like there's no, that concept to me is just so awesome because I see this with Bitcoin where it's just like, I don't understand how Bitcoin works. I can't tell you exactly the technical aspects of it, but I know that it's a replacement, that this is the absolutely going to take over paper currency as we know it. It's going to be like in 10 years from now, we're not going to be talking about, the digital currency is going to be the norm. And Bitcoin has a huge head start on any digital currency. So I think that's something to keep in mind that things like that it's really, really awesome to get involved or to understand these things as they happen, not, a year or 2 or 3 years, because we're in this age of exponentialism where things are moving so fast technologically. So if you slip a little bit and you, like in internet marketing, if you wait 6 months, say, you're completely behind the curve because everything has changed. Like everything on social media changes, the way you need to market your business changes, like things that used to work don't work. So it's just like that with everything else. So staying with the times is really important. Having that growth mindset, letting go of some of the things some of the fixed mindset things that you had. I think that's the way we change the world. That's the way we change ourselves for the better. And I think that's how I'm going to end the show. So want to wish everybody a happy holidays wherever you are. And I'm gonna before I go here, I'm gonna have a contest for iTunes reviews. So if you have a chance and you want to give me a review on iTunes there for the Freedom Lovin' podcast, if you can just do a screenshot of it and send that to me, then I'm gonna pick someone at random, and I'm gonna give you a gift card of your choice, and I'll tell you what your choices are when you send me that email. And you can send it to me on kevin@freedomlovin.com or on Facebook. If we're not friends there, definitely connect with me on Facebook, and then join our Freedom Lovin' Quest group, and we can talk about all that there. So that's about it. And then I'm also looking for interviews for 2016. So if you want to be interviewed, or if you know anyone that you think would be a great person for the Freedom Lovin' podcast, please send that to me, and I'd love to get in touch with whoever that is. Anything to do with freedom would be awesome. So that's all I have for today. Have a great week. Go out there and build some freedom. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Don't laugh, but I'm going to take it out today with an awesome song by Nickelback called Edge of a Revolution. Enjoy and have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
New York Times, standing on the edge of a revolution. Hey, hey, just obey. Your secret's safe with the NSA.